Hello and welcome to another edition of Resource Review. We bring you expert analysis and classroom trials of those essential teaching resources. Today we're discussing resources for secondary D&T. Joining me to recommend today's resources is Jonathan Boyle, Deputy Head of Walsall Academy and Teacher of Design Technology. Alongside Jonathan, we have Adrienne Jones, a freelance education consultant and former teacher and LEA advisor. Also on the panel, we have Alan Mills, Head of Affiliation Network at the Specialist Schools Trust. Well, it's great to see you all. Thanks for coming. Jonathan, as our expert, you've recommended a range of resources for us today, from a laser cutter to some electronic software and some product design books. Now, is the market for design and technology resources pretty healthy at the moment?
I think it's excellent. If a discerning teacher looks carefully for the correct resource, there are a wealth of resources available to push our students forward faster.
Great. Well, let's begin with the new small laser cutter FB400 series. What is this resource and why did you choose it?
Well, the CAD/CAM Technologies FB400 is a small laser. It enables students from a very early age to cut out accurate models, real products, with a perfect finish for either further construction and assembly or for just making small little products quickly and cost effectively.
OK, well, let's go and have a look at this resource in use in the classroom. We went to Brian Crowder's class at Madeley Court School in Telford.
It was a Year 7 class, and we had them making fridge magnets out of acrylic, 3mm acrylic. So they've obviously done their designs, sketch ideas on paper. We've then got them onto the PCs. Now, there's two methods they can use. They can draw it straight into there, or they can copy and paste a piece of clip art. But the clip art has to be simple, cartoony type lines. And then once you've done that, you export the file as a DXF, a drawing exchange format, and we put that into the laser cutter software, the APS Ethos. And then you get that image onto there, and then you can adjust the sizes on that software. You can then apply cut effects. Engrave cuts about halfway down, yeah? So that's engraving. And then, like a printer, you just send it straight to the laser cutter. The only thing you have to do to the laser cutter is set the media size. So you load up your material, whatever it might be, you set the laser to the bottom corner, the extent that you're going to cut in, and then send it to print. It's as easy as that, and it is as quick as that. Initial outlay is expensive, but if you had one, you would realise that it suddenly takes over every job. So you don't need the other machines necessarily. Obviously, it can't cut metals, so you would need the other machines for metals and more traditional cutting out PCBs, printed circuit board for the copper, because it wouldn't be able to engrave the copper. But for any other material, acrylics, paper, card, it's invaluable, really. It has got to be the way forward.
OK, well, Jonathan, Brian seemed to love this piece of kit, but I can't get over this fact that it is just very expensive for schools. How's that going to work with most schools out there?
Well, surprisingly, schools are coming on board. I think schools are appreciating at a more senior level that laser technologies are serious bits of kit, but they're finding the resources in order to get them into the classroom. I know for a fact that the standard of products that I'm experiencing at our school is absolutely superb now. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't good before, but also in the workshop, those skills need to be good with practical skills, but this adds a further dimension, which means that the students can make exemplary products. So directly as you see them in the computer-aided design software, you will be able to manufacture them.
Alan, if I could ask you now as well, how realistic do you think it is for schools to have something like this?
Well, I think the answer is that it solves a lot of problems. It does a lot of different things. That was clear. So if it's the one investment you're making, it seems to solve quite a few of the issues for the teacher. The problem is it is very expensive, and it will be in one place, presumably. It's not going to be portable.
Yeah,
it does worry me, that.
Can schools share it?
Not well, it depends. If schools have got an outreach programme at Walsall Academy, we have an outreach programme, and we have schools that come and visit us and spend a day with us or half a day with a full class of children, and they get to use the equipment there.
Adrienne, were you impressed by this resource?
It seemed to have, or it seemed to offer a lot of quality. The only doubt I had was in relation to the software, because is the laser cutter only as good as the software, and is the software going to change, and therefore will the laser cutter actually keep up with it?
No, if you imagine the software that comes with it would not be my default choice of software. You would use things that are already currently in schools, such as Pro Desktop and ArtCam for Education. And I would take those files and import them into that software. And if I give you some examples of some of the things you can actually make, what I've brought here, this is a Year 7 task. What we've got is 3 pieces of acrylic which have been exported from ArtCam. And what I've done is I've cut out for the students a top piece, a bottom piece with a series of holes in, and also a border. Now what we do is we pour in our smelly scent into there, and it drips down, and then it can be suspended, so then the students have got an air freshener. What we've got here inside it are 2 layers of felt, so it's great for textiles as well.
Well, thank you very much for that. Let's move on to the second resource, something very different, some electronic software called Circuit Wizard. So, Jonathan, tell us about Circuit Wizard.
Circuit Wizard is absolutely great. Now, I remember when I was a lad, probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, electronics was quite a daunting task, some kind of weird science. But now to see students are able to grab a component, pull it onto a screen and actually test if the circuit works in virtual prototyping, that is beyond compare.
Well, to see this electronic software Circuit Wizard in use, we're going back to Madeley Court School and Brian Crowder's class.
If we move it to there, what do you expect is going to be there? Basically, you can make a circuit up. So you can simulate on screen what they need to know and how things react. You get the components, you drop them in and wire them together to make a simple circuit, or you add to it and make it more complicated. And to test it, you know, this circuit might not work. You've got an on-screen simulation, so you can run it and see that the buzzer or your output, whatever output, is working. If it doesn't, well, obviously you've got to look in your circuit and find out what the problem is. OK, go on. Edit it then, John. Good. It doesn't do any fault finding for you, but it does test the circuit at that stage. And also, when you put it into a PCB, printed circuit format, it will test the circuit there as well. This one always goes to the negative side of the battery. Don't worry about that. They like interacting with things like this. They like computers. And I've found in the past, but using physical components, they get a bit confused because you're wiring on an old-fashioned breadboard, you know, with little bits of wire, and they get very, very confused. But in there, it's just basically line drawings. So they could be drawing it on a piece of paper, but they're just using the software. So I think that's a lot easier for them, a bit more intuitive, so they can get their heads around it a lot better. It would be nice to have a few circuits that maybe, you know, were an example, but you can do that yourself to say this is how this works, you know, to do it that way. But you can use your books from that point of view anyway, so it's alongside the actual normal physical components. It'll never replace it because it can't, because they've got to solder the circuit board together at the end of the day. Now switch it off. OK, and again. Good. There's their alarm going off.
Well, Jonathan, this seems like a resource that certainly has a lot to offer, but are there other similar things out there?
Yes, there are. However, this has got a unique selling point. It's the first time, to my knowledge, that we've got a package that does absolutely everything, from beginning through to the end, to the manufacture, where the teachers decide to make the PCBs via traditional methods or export them to a CAM machine. It's absolutely all-encompassing.
The good thing about the website, for example, just exploring that particular resource, I mean, you'd expect an electronics resource to have a good website, and it certainly does. And
does that represent good teacher support?
Yes, and it's got animated tutorials on it, which are fascinating to watch as well as really simple. I mean, for a fairly complicated process, you know, like it was said on the clip that we saw, it's actually quite complicated working with a PCB, wiring with solder and stuff, to actually understand it in the first place. But it was so clear.
Alan, do you see this as a resource coming into all classrooms for D&T?
I think it's an excellent use of demonstration software, because one of the problems is trying to demonstrate anything that's got so many different bits, and the practical components, physical components are difficult to manipulate. But I think the joy of it actually is that if you've got the site licence, it can be demonstrated from the front by the teachers, what we should all be aiming for in this, and then they can go and do it themselves as well. So it's a good combination of the demonstration and the practical use, and obviously solves a lot of the problems of the physical component.
It's one true nugget, its golden nugget, is where when you've got an elementary circuit on the screen that's working, when you've got a basic design and you know that that circuit works, you press a button and it automatically produces the PCB and all the tracks in the right order for you. And that is golden.
Thanks very much for that. Now let's move on to our third resource, and Jonathan has brought in a suite of books from publishers Nelson Thornes. Jonathan, which books in this series really stand out?
Well, Nelson Thornes have got a great reputation for producing quality books for design and technology, whether Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4 and through into sixth form. I've brought along with me today a series of the books from the Design and Make It range, and also ones which include CD-ROMs which can go on the school network and cover areas such as textiles, food technology and product design.
Now, can schools just buy one or two? I mean, you're not advocating the whole suite.
No, what schools can do, they need to get in touch with Nelson Thornes and make sure that they get the advertising literature and find out what books are going to work best for them.
Are there any here that really you would like to recommend?
Yes, there is. There's one which really stuck in my mind, and it's called Understanding Industrial Practices. It's this book here. It's a photocopyable resource, and I'll tell you why it sticks out for me. At GCSE level, quite often, in the syllabus material that teachers have access to, there are terms in there that are hard to define. This book here actually exemplifies some of those key terms in there, such as if in the syllabus material it discusses a manufacturing system, in here you're going to find a clear-cut definition of it. It's like a glossary of terms, clearly defining each of those key words. At the back of the book, there are tasks that the students can be involved in. So to further make sure that a student understands a term or a process, one of these can be photocopied and given as a classroom task or a task to do at home.
Do teachers really need a book for this? Is there something comparable that they could download off the internet?
Well, I think it's always good to have a book reference. For all the ICT in the world, it's also good to have books as well, and I think it's having a broad mix of those. I know that I'm going to have this on my shelf in my office for all my teaching staff to be able to access whenever they feel the need.
Well, thanks very much, Jonathan. 3 very interesting resources there for secondary D&T. To summarise, we looked at the small laser cutter FB400 series from CAD/CAM Technologies. Also, the Circuit Wizard electronics software from New Wave Concepts. And the book Understanding Industrial Practices from a suite of books available from Nelson Thornes. And don't forget that for more information on all of these resources and to post your own comments about other resources for secondary D&T, you can go to our website, that's teachers.tv/resource review, or if you want to, email us, resourcereview@teachers.tv. Many thanks to our panellists, to Jonathan, to Alan and to Adrienne. Thanks to you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.